Hey, this is Flatlander Mike here, coming to you from Saskatchewan, Canada. And today we're going to do a rear seal for the drive shaft on the engine side. Now, if you've seen my other videos, you know I put tracks on not long ago. I did have a little bit of a leak, or it was damp around the drive shaft at the front. And I thought it was the seal. So anyway, I kept an eye on it, and then I was pulling shocks off the ice here for other people, and had a couple of real heavy ones, and it started leaking, and I lost about 3/4 of a liter of oil out of the engine. So I thought, well, I better stop and see if we can fix this. So I checked into it a little bit yesterday or last night, and I found out that the seal itself was not wet, so I couldn't figure out what's going on. So I pulled the rubber cover back, which stops the dirt and grime getting into the joint. It's called a coupler. So I pulled that back, and the oil poured out of there. So for some reason it's leaking out the splines from underneath the nut that holds that coupler on. So we're going to take it all apart and make sure that that's all we need, and we're going to have to take and move the differential back so I can get the shaft out anyway. So probably going to take the coupler off and replace the seal while I'm there. But we're going to take it apart and just to make sure that we don't need anything else. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to pull the box off. I did look at some other videos, another video, but it was on a Rhino. So the difference I could see there is the shaft, the drive shaft, is quite a bit longer. This one here is only about 12 inches long, maybe a little bit shorter. So it's a very short shaft. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull the box off. Just 2 pins on the bottom, at the back. They've got little clips on. You pull the clips out, slide the pins out, the pivot pins. You want to make sure that you take that shock, it's a shock or a gas shock, you want to take that off first, because if you don't, you have trouble getting it back on with the box if it's attached to the box. And if it's not attached to the box, then you have a little bit of trouble getting it back on to line it up. So what I did was I took that shock off. It's right here. Make sure you keep the clips wherever it is. Anyway, not that important. So you want to make sure that you don't lose the clips. And there's some wires for the tail lights and brake lights in the back. Just unplug them because they're all color coded. They're easy to plug back in. Little clips on the wires that hold it into the holes in the body of the box. So you just kind of pull them out carefully. You don't want to break them if you don't have to. So you want to pull them out carefully. And then just let the harness hang there, and it's disconnected from the box. So you need 2 people. It's better with 2 people. Grab one on each side, and my son's going to come out here and help me take this box off, and then we're going to show you what I mean by where the leak is. Okay, so where I was telling you that I found the leak, so I'm going to just kind of show you. Okay, you can see the seal right in there. Hard to see, right down in there. You can see the seal is not wet, but when I pulled off this rubber here, that goes over the top there, and that seals that away from getting crap in it. Okay, so when I pulled this off, oh, the oil ran out from there. So this is the drive shaft here. This is called the coupler. This piece right here, and that couples the drive shaft into that middle shaft, they call it. Okay, and you can see on the other side, is where it goes into the differential. Okay, so I have no leaks there. I just had engine oil coming out here. So we're going to pull off, go back here. So we're going to pull off this differential. We're going to loosen it off, take the bracket, this bracket off here. We're going to take this bracket off. There's 3 bolts. Okay, and we've got 2 through bolts right here. So there's a through bolt right here and a through bolt over here. And then we're going to take this bracket off, so there's a couple bolts up top here and 2 bolts here on the top. This bracket will come right off. Okay, so now the video I saw, it says you can loosen this off, take these brackets off, and then that differential will slide back, or final drive, whatever you want to call it. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the emergency brake caliper, which is right there. So there's 2 bolts on here. One right, get my hand in there. There's one right here and one down here. So if you can see that, there's 2 there. So we're going to pull that off first. That'll give me a little slack so I don't have to stretch that cable. So there's the cable running back all the way up to the front. Okay, so we're going to do that first. And then hopefully we can get that differential back far enough to slide that drive shaft out of the splines and then find out what's going on. I think what's happening is the nut is either come loose in the coupler that couples the coupler to the shaft, or it's just leaking oil out through there. So, but it's seeping in between the splines of the shaft and the splines on the coupler. So we may have to put some sealant around that. So, okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so got all the brackets off the differential, and you can see it's loose here. It just pivoted down. I just pulled it back, and the drive shaft came right out. So here's the drive shaft. Okay, so in the end, there's a spring. Oh, something just dropped out. And that looks like a seal. It goes in here. Okay, the seal goes in there. Alright, rubber seal. So here we have a spring in there. And what that does is puts pressure on the drive shaft. So close up there. And keeps the drive shaft pushed back against the differential. Okay, so we want to make sure that's the way it goes into the engine, this way. Okay, so we don't want to mix that up. Make sure we put that in the right way. Okay, so now if you can look in here, it's hard to see. Let's see if I can get my light down there. So you can see the nut in there. Okay, and that almost looks like that nut is backed off a bit. It's got a collar around the outside. So what we're going to do is going to take that nut off. Actually going to drain the oil first because that's engine oil in there. And we're going to drain the oil. We need an oil change anyway. So we're going to get an oil change kit while we're at the dealer with a filter and the oil. And we're going to get a new seal. I think we're going to put the new seal in. Even though it's not leaking right now, I think it's probably with 6,000, a little over 6,000 kilometers on it, probably wouldn't hurt. So, okay, so we're going to go and pull that off. Now that nut is torqued to 137 foot-pounds, which is quite a bit. Now what I did was I left it in 4-wheel and lock, four-wheel lock. And I'm going to get someone to put the brakes on, and hopefully that's going to hold that shaft while I take the nut off. Okay, be back in a jiffy. Alrighty, so now we've drained the oil, and we're going to pull this coupler off, and it should just slide right off. Look at that. And there's a washer inside, don't lose that. That off in my bucket. And I just wanted to show you that seal is right there. So we're going to go to the dealer and we're going to get one of those. Can't see anything else wrong. What you want to check is on here. You want to make sure that the seal didn't cut into it. It looks alright there. If we have to, we can take a little crocus cloth and just run it on that, but you don't want to sand it down too much because then it won't seal and it'll be too rough. So we're going to probably just run a little piece of sandpaper, very, very fine sandpaper on there, and then replace that seal up there, and then put her back together and torque her down. And we should be all done. Now there's probably grease that goes into the differential here. It's hard to see. There's splines in there. Probably going to clean them out. Clean them out good, and then pack that with some grease. And probably on the same on the other end. In here, inside of this, we're going to put grease in there because it looks like the oil has kind of washed it all out. So, and then we should be good to go. Put her back together and we'll give her a test. And we're going to change the oil filter. We'll pick up an oil filter and the oil. And the reason I had to drain the oil because that's engine oil in that. And if you pull that off without draining it, you're going to have a big mess on the floor. So you want to drain the engine oil when you do that. So okay, we'll be back shortly.